Hey guys, so today we're gonna start. I'm gonna fix my camera here. Okay, so today I'm gonna work on showing you some beginning tapping riffs. Not so much riffs, maybe riffs is the wrong word. I'm gonna give you one riff, the one you just saw me play at the beginning of the video, and just give you some basic overview on how tapping's done. It's a very easy thing to do once you practice it up. It just has a lot of good sound to it. Alright, so number one thing, like all things, is practice slow, just to get it under your fingers. And if you've seen some of my other videos, we talk about once you get it going slow, you can always speed it up, and if it sounds messy, slow it back down to fix a couple things and speed it back up. Because tapping's fun, and I'm gonna give you but you know, it can be done slow or fast, but most of the time people want to be able to tap fast. I will give you some ideas on how to use it in a slow context, and I think that's very useful. And yeah, let's get started. So number one thing, we always want to try to take something and make it musical. There's a couple ways we can do that, and the ways we can do it is either A, writing the riffs over a musical context. So we might pick a progression. In the case of the progression we're going to be doing on the riff in a minute, we're going to be playing E minor to D to C to B major. Right? So it's like, and the tapping riff is based over those four chords. But before we get into that, I'm going to give you just a simple context, and we can go more into it later in another video, because I'm probably going to do a part 2 to this series. I may just do a whole series of tapping videos, because there's a lot of different applications for it. Harmonics and that deal. Alright, but for the sake of keeping this one short, I'm just going to quickly breeze by this idea of tapping in a melodic way. And it's also great even when you go to speed it up, to do it like this in the beginning slow, so that you teach yourself how to incorporate it in a musical phrasing. Alright, so one thing you can do, now I don't want you to watch necessarily the frets I'm hitting at this moment. I mainly want you to get the idea of what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm just going to play a little bit for you, and then we'll talk about it. So okay, and I know that that's not beginner level tapping. I'm aware of that. What I kind of wanted to give you the idea of is how you can play tapping very slow and melodically, and it still sounds good. Because I want you to get it in your mind. Yes, most people want to be able to tap fast, but it's okay to do it slow. Alright, so what is tapping exactly? Tapping is nothing more than hammering on to the string with your right hand and then pulling off. So in the left hand, the hammer on is where you pick a note and then use the strength of your finger to hammer on to another note. So you don't even have to pick the first note once your fingers get to a certain level. Oh, by the way, side note, let me point out that I'm tuned down to a D tuning. It makes the strings more loose and easier to tap, but you can do this in standard. I'm just saying, if you play the exact exercise I do, then you would have to tune your guitar down to D for it to sound the same. But you can play it in standard tuning. It's just going to sound like key higher, which is fine. You can play it wherever you want to, key wise. Okay, so once your fingers get strong enough, you don't have to necessarily pick the first note. You can just use the strength of your fingers to hammer on. Alright? And then a pull off would be basically using the finger you just hammered on with, pulling off the string, and treating this finger like a pick. Like you were picking with your right hand, but you're treating the finger like it's the pick to pick this note. And what I'm doing is I'm using my ring finger, I'm pulling off of the 7th fret on the G string to the 5th fret on the G string. And then I'm using, again, my ring finger to hammer back on the 7th fret of the G string. And a combination of those two is where you get this sound. Okay, so that's step one. Tapping is the same idea, except you're using a finger or groups of fingers on your right hand to do this. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this hand the same, just like we were doing before. Let's 5th fret G string. I can then take, and I usually use my middle finger because I hold my pick and my thumb and first finger. And I use some combination of some other fingers. But to get you started, if you take this part of your hand and lay it firmly down on the neck, you'll notice it mutes out those top 3 strings, some on the 4. And what I typically do, because muting is, it's a huge part of the tapping sound. If you can't mute the string that you're not playing, it's just going to sound like a jumbled mess. So let's talk about that for a minute. All right. So there's 2 ways to mute. You got the tapping hand, and you got the fretboard hand. Obviously named that because you're using it on the fretboard. Okay. So to mute, what we want to do, at least what I do, is I typically use this finger to, if I'm playing the 5th fret on the G string, I've got it curled here to where it barely touches these other 2 strings, the B string and the bottom string. It barely touches them enough to mute them out. I don't have it laying flat, otherwise those notes will sound. I curl it to where it touches them, but just barely. Okay, that's just something that takes some practice and it comes over time. It's not something that you're going to get overnight. But that doesn't mean you can't tap. Again, all these things are just things you polish up over time. Alright, to mute with the right hand, I take kind of this groove part. I don't know what that's called, but I kind of take that groove part and I lay it on the, actually on the fretboard itself, on the wood. And it allows, if I turn the volume up, my hand to spread out. And you don't want to press down so hard that you are sounding it. You just want to lay it there to where if you were to take, pick the string, it's muted out. And to be honestly, even part of my arm's laying on the strings back here. It makes it easier. I don't suppose you would have to do it that way. That's just the way I particularly do it. I try to get as much muting on the string as possible so that only the notes I want to sound are sounding. And it takes some practice. I'm not even an expert at it yet, but I can give you the idea. Alright, so going back to the fretboard hand, we're going to put it on the 5th fret of the G string. We're going to now take this hand and just lay it on the other strings. So if I take my hand and go across the strings, most of them should be muted out. Alright, so we're going to go back to that little hammer on and pull off exercise we were doing a minute ago, where we're hammering on to the 7th fret and pulling off back to the 5th fret, and let's see how it sounds. See, you'll notice that I've got the D string up above it, muted out with my picking hand, and the B string, which is underneath it, it's muted out with my fretboard hand, so that I can freely just play, right? And it mutes out most of the sound I don't want. It's even more, you have to be even more careful with it when you're using delay in your amp, which is actually a good thing to use when you're tapping. It gives extra volume to the sound. But you have to be careful when you're using it, because if you're not careful, you'll actually, like if you hit an open string, you don't have it muted enough, or you hit the wrong note, of course it's going to carry that out too. So there's pros and cons to having it. Alright, so beginning tapping idea. So mute it out like we just discussed, you know, and then go to the, we're going to do the first exercise we did, which was hammer on and pulling off. Now, you see on my guitar, there's two dots right here, which tells me it's the 12th fret. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do this motion with my hand, this kind of idea. It causes a little bit of pickup sound because I'm pressing the strings against the pickup. But the motion that I'm going for is on the 12th fret of the G string. I'm going to hammer on with my middle finger. Okay? So it looks like this. Sorry, hit a harmonic. Now it's the same idea as what I did with my ring finger. I'm just doing it with my right hand. Okay. And just like I pulled off with my ring finger and used it like a pick to hit the C note, I am going to do the same thing with my tapping hand. So I'm going to hammer on hard. And that takes a little bit of practice to get that sound to come out. A lot of times it sounds more like something like that when you start. That's fine. It's perfectly normal. What you want to do is you want to hit it and push down. It takes some practice. It's not easy, and you know it definitely works your fingers and it can make them sore. But just keep working at it, you'll get it. So you want to press down, hammer on, and now this is why it's important to mute. When I go to pull off, I'm using my middle finger like a pick to pick this note down here. So again, I'm hammering on the 12th fret, using my middle finger as a pick to pick the 5th fret. Now, and that's tapping. So, okay. So with that idea, we're now going to take the first exercise we did, which was and exercise number 2, which was, and then we're going to blend them together. We're going to alternate. We're going to do exercise 1, then 2, then 1, then 2. Slow, it sounds like this. I'm going to actually start with the tapping hand. Excuse me. So it's tap, pull, hammer on, pull. So it's going to be exercise 2, then 1, 2, then 1. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And again, don't expect to get this right away. It takes a lot of practice, but it's not hard to do. And I don't want to put it in your head that it's harder than it is, because I want you to have fun with it. Okay, next part of the deal. Remember I said at the beginning we're going to take this same idea. Now, I'm not going to explain to you from a chord standpoint why this works. That's for a later video. I'm just going to tell you that if you're playing a chord progression of E minor, D, C, and B major, you know, it's very classical sounding, which is great. And all I've done is I've outlined those 4 chords for this riff. Okay? The way we're going to work it is, and it's going to be very similar to exercises 1 and 2. Alright, so I'm going to tap the 17th fret with my middle finger. And by the way, when I'm down this far, as I move down the strings to tap, I cover more of the string. I mute more with my right hand. When I come up this way, I'm muting more with my left hand. Okay? So, all the strings here are muted with my right hand. Because I'm only playing the bottom string, it's the only one I need open. So, just quickly, the riff is going to be tap the 17th fret, pull off to the 12th fret, and hammer on to the 15th fret. And then pull back off to the 12th fret. So 17, tap, pull to the 12th, hammer on to the 15th, pull to the 12th. Alright, so that's shape 1. It's a E minor shape. But this is a minor, this is a minor shape in general. The kind of 3 fret stretch in between these 2 fingers, and then between this one and the tapping finger is a 4 fret stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I say 4 frets, I'm counting. I don't count the note that my finger's on. So from my index finger here to my ring finger. And by the way, you can use your pinky or ring finger. I'm just using my ring finger because it's easier. So from my index finger to my ring finger is a 3 fret stretch. 1, 2, 3. And then from my ring finger to my tapping finger is a 4. Is 1, 2, 3. It's 4 frets. Okay. So that is a minor shape. You can take this same shape and move it around the neck. Okay, so if I did that same idea and slid it down to say the 5th fret, and then I did from my index to my ring, I did three frets, 1, 2, 3, just like we did down here. We're going 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll take my tapping finger and count up 4. 1 from my ring finger. Remember, don't count the fret that your finger's on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we play the same pattern, which is tap, pull, hammer, pull, tap, pull. Okay, now that's not part of the riff. I just want to make it clear to you that that shape is an important one to learn, because then it's a minor shape that you can move all the way around the neck, and you can move it across all 6 strings. Like, alright, so we'll talk about that some more in some later videos. Alright, I'm going to give you one more shape to play this kind of beginning riff with. Alright, so again, a 3 fret stretch and then a 4, it's minor. We're now going to slide our first finger, our index finger, down 2 frets to the 10th fret on the E string. We're going to then flip our little formula. Excuse me. So instead of going from 3 frets to 4, we're going to do 4 frets and 3. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and again I'm using my ring finger. You can use your pinky. Just preference for you. And then I'm using my tapping finger and count up 3 from my ring finger. 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm not counting the fret that my finger is on. That's like 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? So this is the major shape. It sounds like we're going to do the same tapping pattern. Tap, pull, hammer, pull. Okay, so again, that's a 4 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, not counting this one, and then 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so we're going to take this same shape, and we're going to move all 3 fingers down 2 frets, so 1, 2, and we still end up with a major shape, which is a 4 fret deal, and then 3. Okay? This is C. And again, we're going to move down 1 more fret with each finger. So all 3 fingers just slide down a fret. So you should end up with your index finger. This is the pattern it should follow. It should start on the 12th fret. It should go to the 10th fret, the 8th fret, and then the 7th fret. So 12, 10, 8, 7. Alright, so first shape is minor, 3 frets, then 4. We're going to do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're then going to slide down to the 10th fret and play the major shape 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're then going to slide down 2 more frets to the 8th fret and play that major shape 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to slide down 1 more time to the 7th fret and play that same major shape 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. All together slow, it's going to sound like this. So, a little faster. I messed up, sorry. And you can speed it up if you want. Okay, so again, I'm gonna encourage you to practice those slow. I'm gonna give you one little quick variation to this. You can use the same fingerings to do as far as following the same patterns down. The only difference is we're gonna play a little 3-note pattern instead of 4. So it's gonna look like tap, pull, hammer. So tap, pull, hammer, tap, pull, hammer, tap. So it's 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if I play that whole tap, pull, hammer 4 times, this is what it sounds like. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide down to this major shape and do it 4 times. Again, slide down. Again, slide down. So all together it's you could experiment if you wanted to, mixing these two together. Maybe playing a group of 3 and then a group of 4 or vice versa. So let's just see what that would sound like. So if I play a group of 3 first. Say I play, a group of 3 first. And then I want to play a group of 4. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So basically I'm doing exercise. I'm doing tapping riff 2 and then tapping riff 1. 2, then 1, 2, then 1. Just back to back. And then I'll leave it for an experiment for you to move it down through the same chord patterns and progression and to speed it up. And just see if you can figure that out on your own. I'm going to give some more advanced things in the next part of the series. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks.